Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a big show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk a little ACC post-spring meetings. We're going to talk the JP poll. JP out there giving some rat poisoning. We'll talk about that a little bit later. All of that and more coming up in tonight's episode. But before we get into the show tonight, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Help us out. Help us get to 6,000 subscribers. That would be greatly appreciated. Share this video with all of your college football friends, family, whoever you know that likes to consume college football content. Send them our way. Like this video. Helps us out on these live videos. So hit that like button while you're in here. And then last but certainly not least, we have channel memberships now. So we got YouTube memberships. If you guys want to support what me and Jordan do here on the channel and the All In Show, hit that membership. We already have one signed up for the membership. And as we get some more, we'll start putting out some members-only content, some live streams, stuff like that for you guys to consume. As a thank you to you for supporting what we do here on the All In Show and the Clemson at the Voice of College Football channel as a whole. We got the Super Chat feature available, so if you want to support in that way, that's greatly appreciated as well. But with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. Living the dream. I hope you had a really good all of you, I hope you guys had a nice Mother's Day weekend. I got to go and visit my family out in Eastern North Carolina. I cooked for my mom and my grandmother, so that was an experience. But hey, it was good. Unfortunately for Clemson athletics, well, it was kind of a mixed bag over the weekend.
It was. It was certainly a mixed bag for sure. Baseball team trending in the wrong direction. Softball team trending up, trending in the right direction. Winning their very first ever ACC championship. So shout out to the softball team. Shout out to Coach Rittman over there. All the girls over there for getting it done against Florida State. Fun fact for everybody out here that doesn't follow softball, maybe as closely as I do. I love softball. Obviously, you guys who are friends of the show, who are regulars here, know that my daughter plays softball. So it's kind of found its way into my life. And I love watching softball, especially Clemson softball. That's the first time that we've ever beaten FSU. And it was on the biggest stage in the conference to win our very first conference championship as far as the ACC tournament goes. And only our sixth season. So shout out to Coach Rittman and all of them over there. They've done an amazing job, and the journey's not done. Still got the NCAA tournament, and I look for them to make some noise. I posted on Twitter, I don't know how many times at this point, Jordan. They just find a way to win. Yes. I posted it over and over and over again. 3 comeback wins in the ACC tournament to ultimately take the trophy home. It's a fun team to watch for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, you mean Florida State, you were 0 for 7.
0 for 7 before that
0
game.
for 7. Yeah. And, you know, they had been the big them and Duke really have been the big thorns in Clemson's side, you know, since they started their program. Those have been the 2 programs they really just have not been able to beat really consistently, and especially Florida State. And the way they battled, man. I mean, Florida State, you know, they got out hit. You know, they had 2 errors. There were a lot of things that should have said that they lost that game.
Absolutely.
But they hung in there. They got timely outs, and, you know, they just kept battling. They kept getting, you know, they kept putting the ball in play, you know, against that pitcher for Florida State. I mean, that's just impressive. And then you just knew it. You just had all it took was one swing. You know, you just had to keep hacking at it, and you knew you were going to get one. And
you knew it was coming. Yeah, you could just feel
Johnson, man.
Yeah. From maybe an unlikely source.
Yeah.
You look at that lineup top to bottom, that's not where you would have looked for that swing. You might have looked a batter before her with Taylor Pipkins. who has been absolutely on fire towards the end of the season. And when she struck out, I was like, oh man, I thought that was going to, with a runner on, I thought Pipkins was going to be the one to kind of get it done. But Golly Johnson steps up and sends FSU home packing. So, and then, obviously shout out to Brooke McCubbin for coming in and getting those last 3 outs, the defense backing her up against
she was nails, man,
against the meat of their lineup too, to get those last 3 outs to seal it for the Tigers. So it was a fun game to watch. They're just never out of it, man. Like, it's hard not to have, like, watching that game, it was hard not to have like a little bit of doubt creep in because of the opponent you were playing.
Yeah.
And, it's just in the back of your mind, like, we've never beaten this team. We've come close so many times, but they always get the best of us. But with this year's team, man, it's like the inverse of last year. They find a way to win, no matter what. Like the game before that, they should have never won that game.
Oh no, they were down 9-2.
It was 9-2 heading into
was it the bottom of the 8th or the top of the 9th?
It was the bottom of the 6th.
I'm still thinking baseball.
You're thinking baseball.
Bottom of the 6th, yeah.
Yeah, bottom of the 6th. And they just rattle off. What was it? 8 runs.
Yeah.
To go up 10-9.
And there were a lot of like Hokie fans that were upset because of the rain and all of that. And I'm like, yeah, I agree that they probably shouldn't have been playing.
I understand that, but both teams played in the rain.
Yeah, both teams had to pitch in that rain, and Brooke McCubbin, she threw strikes.
Yeah, both pitchers had the same ball. Like Brooke McCubbin had a wet ball as well, and she threw strikes and got outs.
Yep.
And your pitchers just couldn't. So I get the frustration. I would be frustrated if Clemson was on the wrong end of that loss.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of like what Coach Rootman said after that game is like, when you decide to keep playing that game, like you're committed at this point. You just got to finish that game. Yeah, shout out to the women's softball team. Couldn't be more excited. And then hopefully, they're hosting a regional. They will not host a super regional. Pretty irritated about their seeding when it comes to the NCAA tournament. I feel like the 11th seed is pretty low coming off of an ACC championship game. This is a team that's only lost 6 times this season after opening up the season like 2-6.
Yep.
They were terrible to open up the season. And then, you
that's
off the rest of your schedule, only losing 6 games for the rest of the way. And you win your tournament, your conference tournament, and you get an 11th seed. I don't know about that. But, beating number 1 Tennessee, beating a highly ranked South Carolina team, you got a lot of quality wins in there too, but apparently wasn't enough.
For Florida State, you have wins. What was it, over 5 of the top 10, 4 or 5 of the top 10? I get it. Like, I know the whole body of work has to matter, but it's really frustrating as a fan because that the beginning of the season is not what that team is, not indicative of what this team is at this point. And I get it. The SEC is really strong this year, with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, but I can't. With how Clemson closed, there wasn't a team hotter than Clemson, really, to end the regular season. I think it is what it is. We kind of have to learn to be like, okay, we got to be grateful for what we got because, 3 months ago, this was not even in the conversation. Like we were wondering if we were going to, be a 500 softball team.
Right. Yeah. No doubt about it. Much less like winning your first ACC title, hosting a regional. It's exciting, and I don't think this team is done. And when they make it out of regionals and go to super regionals, I would not want to be the team hosting Clemson in super regionals because they're relentless. They don't quit. When you think you got them beat, you don't. it's a team you got to go out there and put away. So I'm excited to see what they do. But flipping it over to the other stadium just across the way, Doug Kingsmore Stadium, and the Clemson Tiger baseball team not having quite the luck that the softball team is having. They are kind of heading in complete opposite directions at this point. The pitching starting to waver for the Tigers. The hitting hasn't really gotten any better. I think the Clemson baseball team at this point is allergic to getting a hit with a runner in scoring position. It seems to be completely impossible. Like if you want to strike out Clemson batters, just let a runner get to second base, and everybody else is going to strike out, or give you like a soft grounder or something like that. So, yeah, what's your thoughts on this? Clemson base, can they turn this around, or is this just kind of a late season skid that is going to carry on, and it's just not going to end well for this baseball team? What's your kind of read on it right now?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, when I read the body language, one of the things with baseball is body language tells you a lot of what's happening within a locker room.
Yeah.
When I look at this team, I don't see like them. I mean, there's probably some frustration, but I don't really see it, manifest itself throughout the entire lineup. I don't get the sense that they've lost like confidence, so to speak. I feel like they just don't have the juice right now. And this is something that happens to teams.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson is not Clemson's far from the only team that's played good baseball and then, had a stretch where they haven't played well. But I don't know. It's just, I think this team needs to, first of all, I think they need to get healthy because they have had injuries pile up, especially on the infield. The depth has taken a real hit the last few series. Obviously it started with Jaron Purify being out for a while, and then you had Tristan McClatty get hurt last week. So he's dealing with something. And then, of course, your bullpen is not in the same position it was before. You got Ethan Darden out. And, obviously by elevating Drew Titsworth into a starting role, now, that takes – and B.J. Bailey. Like
take away from your bullpen, yeah.
It takes away from your pen. And obviously Lucas Malstead has finally looked human. So, you couple all of that together, and you just don't really have too many relievers that you feel confident about right now. And that was the strength of this team earlier in the season. I mean, your pen was coming in and giving you quality innings while you were trying to figure out who your Saturday and Sunday starters were. And but now you don't have that buffer anymore. So I think this team needs to get healthy first and foremost. I do think that this is not – I tend to think they won't – they'll turn it around to a degree. I don't know if they're going to – I don't know if this team has a run in them, but I do think we'll see better baseball coming soon. If you believe in like the hot theory in baseball where you start out hot like this team did and then they hit a cold stretch, but then they start to piece it together at the end of the year. I think that's possible for this team, but they just need to get healthy, and the guys that they recruited to hit, they just need to start hitting. I mean, you don't have a single guy in the lineup hitting over 300 right now, and that's just not good. I mean, we knew this was kind of the bats had been slow all season, but they found ways to score runs other ways. They manufactured them. They got timely base hits.
Yeah.
So even when they weren't hitting for power, they were scoring a lot of runs. So, but now you're not doing that. And now, and obviously the production has suffered, and you couple that with the pitching situation and the bullpen situation in particular. This is how you lose 3 straight series.
After not losing a series all year, you rattle off 3 straight losses, and they're not particularly pretty losses either. No. You're getting your tail kicked by pretty much every team you've played since NC State. And their approach at the plate is becoming. It looks like they're pressing, swinging at a lot of bad pitches. Just maybe trying to get up there and do too much because it's going so badly. But this series this weekend against Pitt, you go on the road, they need a series sweep in the worst way. And it should be a series that you win. I don't want to say easily, but Clemson should not lose a series to Pitt. But again, with the way the hitting's been going and how hampered that bullpen is due to injuries and all of those things, who knows how it shakes out? You hear Eric Bakich kind of be interviewed and talk, and he seems to believe that there's going to be an explosion at some point on this baseball team, and they're going to kind of turn it around. But I just don't know at this point because it looks bad, and it has for like a month now. So it's a tall task to turn it around at this point. But again, the season's not over. You go in there, you get a series win this weekend, and maybe get yourself back in position to, possibly host a regional. Definitely not going to host a super regional at this point. But maybe you turn it around enough to host a regional and, see what kind of noise you can make in the NCAA tournament at that point. You can't worry about the 3 series that haven't gone your way. You just got to kind of be forward facing, let it go, and try to get up there and have a good approach to the plate, get some hits, and try to get this, this kind of monkey off your back as far as this not being able to put the ball, not being able to get hits with runners in scoring position. Like you got to get that, at some point that bubble has to burst with this team. I mean, there's, I know you mentioned the lack of hitting on this team, and you may have 1, maybe 2 guys that are at 300 or maybe a little above 300. Cam Canarello might be your only guy.
Yeah.
That might be a little above 300 at this point as far as, average. So, but with that said, you do have a lot of good hitters on this team. It's just, I don't know. An inexplicable stretch of just not being able to get it done when you need it the most. But hopefully they can get it turned around. I'm not giving up.
Yeah, me neither. Like, I mean, and because we've seen them do it. Like, I like people. They choose. Like, I think some of our fans choose to believe that these 3 series are what this team actually is when we have infinitely larger sample size of them doing the exact opposite.
They're not. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm not there yet. Now, if they close out the season and like this they just never get off the mat. Okay, it is what it is. But I'm not throwing the towel on this group. I mean they are better than what they've shown the last 3 weeks, and they had opportunities even when they weren't playing well to win those series. I mean, Florida State they flat out should have won that series. I mean, the final game notwithstanding, like you should have won. You should have won Friday. That Friday night game.
You gave it away.
Yeah, you flat out gave it away. And so, like, if you win that series and you're like 1-2, like, honestly, I think even just being 1-2 in those 3 series, you're looking at it maybe a little bit differently because you would have that win on the road against a top 5 Florida State team. So, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do. They got to go up to Pitt. Pitt sucks. But you have to go and play there, and anything can happen. And that stadium and that ballpark is a little funny. So, kind of like Notre Dame. Just when you go up north and that travel, and it's kind of a dead sort of environment, those things can kind of creep up on you. It's very similar to, honestly, it's similar to going to a Pitt football game. Sorry, I'm slandering Pitt for a little bit, not intentionally, but this is kind of how it is. That their student body isn't super passionate about football and especially not baseball. So, but it kind of sucks the life out of it when you're a road team. Like it kind of has the opposite effect of what you would think. It's like, oh, there's not a big crowd. That's great for us, but that also just means it's going to be a very unfamiliar kind of dead environment, and it's hard to really get up for it. So I want to see how this team, performs. And you have to win. You have to win this series. I'm not even expecting a sweep. just win the series. I think this is an absolute must.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to win the series. No doubt about it. Preferably get a series sweep.
Yeah, I would prefer one
which is what you really need. But at this point, I'll just take winning a series after 3 straight series losses. So, but I think they can actually get a series sweep. Pitt is not a great baseball team.
No.
So I think they can get it done, and we'll hope for that. But yeah, lots going on outside of football. Obviously, we just spent the first 25 minutes going through all the rest of this stuff. Quick admin note for everybody. The StreamYard lost accountability points today. I saw you comment that, Jordan. We got to discipline the StreamYard. It lost accountability points. It was not cooperating very well, so there's some extra wind sprints in the StreamYard's future.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I say we give a quick shout out to the comment section and then we dive into the show tonight. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Quick shout out to you guys in the comment section. We got 17 people in the live chat right now. Hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button. Help us out with that. Don't forget the channel memberships that are available for you guys. They're there for you guys to show support to the channel. And once we get a couple more subscribers over there on the channel memberships, we will start posting members-only content, maybe do some members-only live streams where we're just kind of in here hanging out, chopping it up with those who support us. So thank you for that. But first in tonight is Intelligent Savage 629. Thank you so much for being in here, being the first to comment. He says, let's go Tigers, smash that like button. And share the content. Appreciate that. John Sarin gets in, says, I'm early. John Claret is in here. Isaac Smith. Jordan, you're in here. Shout out to Jordan for being in here.
Hey,
John.
me. What's up? Looking handsome as always.
Tiggs is in here. Appreciate you stopping by, man. Thank you. David, our one and only right now, channel member. So thank you so much, David, for being a channel member, for supporting the channel and the All In Show with how you do. Thank you for your contributions. It does not go unnoticed. And it's greatly appreciated. Wet Socks is in here. Let's see who else. David Wood is in here. Thanks for stopping by. What else we got? I hope I'm not missing anybody. Ty Gwynn's in here. Thank you for stopping by. Jay is in the house. And I believe that is it. No, Sierra, for the second week in a row, is in here. So shout out to Sierra.
Oh, and Sierra, I agree. I mean, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, absolutely. But the city of Pittsburgh does not care about the University of Pittsburgh sports. That's what I'm saying. Like they are a professional sports town. They love the Pirates. They love the Penguins. But they're not. Yeah, they're not going crazy about Pitt football or Pitt baseball. It's just unless you're an alumni.
Steelers.
Yeah.
All right. With all of that said, let's dive into the show, Jordan. We got a couple things to get into tonight, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Kicking off the show tonight, we're going to talk a little recruiting update as we lead most shows with recruiting, Jordan. Everybody knows Clemson's success so far in the 2026 class. We got the upcoming official visit weekend coming very soon. Got a lengthy list of guys already committed to coming to that weekend. A lot of uncommitted guys that we are still beating that recruiting trail for and trying to get them to commit. along with a mix of guys who are already committed, who will be on campus to possibly persuade some of those uncommitted individuals to committing to the Tigers. So, Jordan, tell us what is new on the recruiting trail. What are some updates from some of these guys that Clemson is still kind of in the market for?
Yeah, as we kind of gear up towards this big official visit weekend, there have been multiple Clemson coaches out on the road, doing their due diligence in recruiting. You've seen a few Clemson commits getting visits, like Shavar Young got a visit from Mike Reed today. Ben Boulware if you guys follow Ben Boulware on Twitter and you kind of and see what his whereabouts, he's always up in the morning recruiting, like early in the morning, getting up at 6 a.m. Multiple Clemson coaches were in Spartanburg today for a big recruiting camp / you get what I'm saying. One of the biggest in the state of South Carolina. And I believe there are about 50 guys, current, for this current class to the next class that were in attendance. This is a really, really important time for Clemson recruiting. They're about to, start gearing up, obviously not just for this 2026 class and getting those guys in the boat, but they're already looking at that 2027 class. I think, especially in the state of South Carolina, this is going to be a really, really big year, the 2027 class. I mean, when you think of guys like Nate Carson and Sequel Patterson, like these are guys that Clemson is you're probably going to see them get offers here in the next month. Obviously Clemson likes to offer their junior targets in June. So you will definitely, start to see those guys start to come out. But in other news for the 2026 class, obviously the big news coming up on Friday, we talked about him last week, is Polo Anderson, safety from Dorman. Clemson feels really good about where they stand with him. They felt good for a while. They've had the momentum for a while. I don't get any signs that that's going to change. So he's committing. He's announcing his commitment on Friday. So you guys be in tune for that, because I think this is a big. This could be potentially a big commitment for Clemson for a number of reasons. I mean, it's maintaining your foothold and your pipeline in the state. Dorman is a school that if you're Clemson, you never want to lose that. Dorman High School is one of the biggest and most prominent football programs in the state of South Carolina. You never want to lose ties to that. You never want to seize control of that to the team in Columbia, South Carolina. So it's important that even though Clemson is certainly a more national recruiting program, and South Carolina certainly has been emphasizing in-state guys a lot and have won their fair share of battles, I think you still have to maintain some foothold, especially in your area. I mean, when you don't want guys from the Spartanburg and Greenville area, going to South Carolina that, really, really good football players. So I think this is important, keeping a guy that is in your backyard home. And so we'll see. But like I said, I think Clemson feels really good about where they stand with him. On the defensive line front, Bryce Perry White, still the big main target for Clemson on the defensive line. He's been primarily recruited by Nick Eason, but he recently got visited by Nick Eason and Chris Rump. It kind of tells you kind of what they're kind of putting on the full court press here. I definitely think a commitment is probably down the pipeline. I definitely think he wants to be committed before the summer ends. So you're starting to hit that home stretch in that recruitment. Like I said, there are a lot of things in Clemson's favor in that recruitment. I think that's one you absolutely need to win. I think if I had to list him on the biggest priority targets, regardless of position on the board, I think he would be number one. And he also recently just got his 5th star from 24/7 Sports. So would be would be nice to add a 5-star to your class. And now that's got me thinking about the rankings, which I tell you guys not to pay attention to too much, because sometimes it'll make you mad, sometimes it'll make you happy. There were a couple of Clemson commits that got bumps that I was happy about, and certainly ones that got some steep drops, from 24/7 Sports that I wasn't happy about. But don't worry about that too much. But like I said, for optics, it's nice to add a 5-star, and I'm always happy for the kid when they kind of get that recognition. They get to put that 5th star in their bio or whatever, even though it ultimately doesn't matter. The player is the player. And but I think Bryce Perry White is a 5-star talent. So take that for what it's worth. So I feel like it's deserved in this case. So yeah, need to win that recruitment. And we'll kind of see how it goes, down the way. On the offensive line, Clemson is still, surveying their options. They want to add 2 more offensive linemen. Obviously, the big name is Carter Scruggs. That's still out there. And, of course, that's not including guys like Leo Delaney, Cannon Pickett. But Clemson definitely wants to add another, offensive lineman to the mix. Matt Luke recently offered Fletcher Turk, I believe, high 3-star offensive lineman, a guy that hasn't been playing offensive line very long. I believe he was only 220 pounds this time last year. A name to watch for sure. With the aforementioned guys, I think probably trending elsewhere, the Leo Delaney's, the Cannon Pickett's, the Darius Gray's. So I think, this is a timely offer while you're waiting on, while you're anticipating you won't land, the guys I mentioned. And if you can land Carter Scruggs and Fletcher Turk, I think that would be a nice close to the offensive line class. So that's kind of my. I don't usually do notes for these. So if you guys have any questions about any other commits or any targets, feel free to drop them in the chat. I see Isaac Smith asked about Tyler Atkinson. I continue to think it's not the most likely, but he is still reciprocating, interest. And I think when you, in a recruitment like that, where, you're going against some potentially big spenders on the NIL front, I think that's always a good sign. He's still scheduled to come in for his official visit weekend on May 30th. So, I think all the signs were there. And when he was here during the elite retreat, he had really glowing reviews about Clemson. I know that his family, his mother in particular, really likes Clemson and was really, really down with what they had to sell. And, as they say, moms are powerful in these types of recruitments. Moms carry a lot of weight a lot of the time in these types of recruitment. So when you can get to mom, sometimes, a lot of times that's a good sign. Clemson has been really, really good at that over the years. Dabo and staff have always, done a really good job. They always, are really good at connecting with not just the recruits, but also the parents, and especially the moms. So that's a really, really good sign. But like I said, you just have to get them on campus. That's what you have to do. When you have a recruitment like that, that's just get them on campus and see what happens. And when you're a program that, does official visits the way Clemson does, I think anything can happen. So I would frame Tyler Atkinson as, I wouldn't say a long shot, but it's not likely, but it's definitely within the ballpark and definitely within reason. So I definitely wouldn't frame Clemson as the favorite. But I think they've done a good job of recruiting him, and they've done themselves favors leading up to this official visit weekend. So we will see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. John Sarin says Tate Reynolds rating is criminal. If he played West States East in Texas, he'd get more looks.
I totally agree. I mean, and John is also very, like me, he's very critical of these recruiting sites a lot of the times. But yeah, I don't see how you don't have Tate Reynolds as a blue chip prospect. I mean, he plays in the state of Arizona, so that's always they're always going to give him, they're going to knock him for that. But for a guy that hasn't played played quarterback for very long, I mean, and you see the physical tools and arm talent, he absolutely screams a guy that, scouts and recruiting guys would absolutely, slobber over. And he's a two-sport athlete. That always does wonders. He's a phenomenal shortstop prospect who potentially has an MLB future. So we'll see kind of how that works out. But I think he's absolutely needs to be, more highly considered among the top quarterbacks in this class. And that's not just me as it's easy to say that. It's not just me as a Clemson guy saying that, like, if this was if he was committed to anybody else, I mean, you watch him and you see the huge jump he made this past year as a starter. He put up stupid numbers after kind of mediocre, he's like, oh, you saw the potential in his first year starting as a sophomore, but this past year, his junior year tape was awesome. I mean, just the true dual threat ability, phenomenal runner, and extremely difficult to tackle. And he has a really, really beautiful, throwing motion, and he has a really strong arm. So, I mean, when you couple all of those things together, you can, even if he's not like the most polished processor or guy that reads the field the best. I mean, most recruiting guys aren't emphasizing that anyway. They always are looking at those physical tools. Like, do you look the part? Are you throwing, how does the ball look coming out of your hands? Like, those are the things that matter a ton, usually with these rankings. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see a jump, in his senior year. I think that's within the cards if they are paying attention. If he has another jump like he did this past season, I think there's no reason he shouldn't be at least a top 200 kid. So,
yeah, absolutely. He just did an interview with T-Net as well.
Yes,
talking a little baseball and stuff like that. So
great interview. Yeah, y'all go check that out. My guy Grayson Mann over there with TigerNet and David Hood, they did a phenomenal job.
Orange Courage podcast, you guys go check it out. Did a really good interview with Tate talking about his sister playing softball and kind of how he views baseball and how he plans on making it work, trying to be a quarterback for Clemson and being a baseball player on Eric Bakkich's team as well. He said he's probably going to stick to to center field, the outfield, because it's a little bit less of a time commitment, I guess is the best way to kind of say how he put it as far as baseball goes, rather than being in the infield. He said the infield takes a little bit more commitment to kind of play that. So, but it sounds like he's still looking to play a little baseball as well. So not unheard of at Clemson. So we'll see how it works out for him.
Yep. Oh, can I not click on comments because I'm technically a guest? I guess I'm
right.
Not.
Yeah. Dang, which one you want?
John's next question.
Okay.
John asks, who has the best chance to get a rating bump before signing day in December? I'm thinking Burrows, just to guess. Well, Burrows is one of the guys that took a hit in the 24/7 Sports.
Burrows, yeah.
They dropped him to like the 24th highest rated receiver, like 179th overall player.
Yeah, let me hold on.
Don't know how to explain that one.
Yeah, 179th nationally, and then dropped to 24 in his position and 22 in his state. So not so sure how he had such a drastic drop. I don't know what's changed between now and then, but
And he's done nothing but be great in the camp circuit. So I don't know. I really don't know.
Your conspiracy Clemson fans would say because he committed to Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't rule it out.
Right. Yeah. Everything's on the table.
One thing I always wonder is like, do they? Sometimes like I feel like they do undervalue like slot receivers. So just his size might be a thing that they just are knocking him for. Which I mean, he's a true slot guy. So why are we worried about? He's got elite track speed. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with because of that, regardless of how big he is.
Who's looking at measurables when they're looking at a slot receiver? Like,
yeah, I mean,
if he's 6 feet tall, he's 6 feet tall. Like,
yeah.
Who cares? If he's 5'11", he's 5'11". Like,
the guys are just going to flat out outrun you. I mean,
right. Like it's about speed and elusiveness at the slot position anyway. You're looking to get open.
Great after the catch. Like
you're not asking your slot receiver to high point any balls, or be a possession guy. Like, it's just whatever. Yeah, he dropped. Didn't deserve it, but it is what it is. He's the same guy as when he was ranked way higher, according to 247, as he is now. So I'm not.
Yeah.
It irritates you to see that sometimes, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
No.
He's the same guy.
Yeah. You know what you have in him. I mean, and for what it's worth, I mean, On3 still has him as their like number 2 receiver. So I don't know. You can choose. You can pick and choose which service you want to. I'm always listen. Like I don't have any preference for one or the other. I'll pick the ranking that fits my narrative better. That's just what I do. So he's still the number 2 wide receiver in the country for me. And if you somehow land a guy like Sedarian Morgan or Craig Dandridge, like I'm going to pick whatever the ranking has them higher too. So
absolutely,
that's just what you do, because we have no allegiances here. We have no obligation to any particular recruiting site. So we can spin our narratives how we want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Isaac says, is Tate more of an athlete at quarterback or a quarterback that happens to be an athlete? I don't know if the question itself is fair to say either way. I mean, he's a quarterback. I mean, he looks like a quarterback. I just when he's out there, I mean, he plays like a quarterback. I mean, he makes plays with his arm, he makes plays with his legs, and he's a great athlete. I guess you could probably have said that about his first season starting, because they lost some games. He got injured. He didn't play he threw some interceptions. But last year, he was one of the best quarterbacks. He was probably the best quarterback in the state of Arizona for sure. And statistically, he was phenomenal. And I think he's due for another jump. I mean, just as he's more comfortable as a quarterback. I don't think he's as much of a project as you might think when he comes in. I certainly think there will be things. There'll be like a learning curve for him, but I don't think it's going to take him too much to acclimate, because he's naturally built for the position. So I mean, I could totally see him coming in and being more ready to play than maybe even the coaches think.
Yeah.
That's not even saying like he'll be the starter, because me personally, I'm still very much a Chris Vezina is the guy person next year.
I'm still a believer in Chris Vezina will be the starting quarterback next season.
Yeah.
But
I definitely think he could be you could see him be in a competition with say Chris Denson for QB2.
Yeah. And I think John Sarian makes a good point. Tate is probably a near perfect fit for what Garrett Riley wants.
I mean, exactly. I mean, he's very much like
prototypical Garrett Riley quarterback.
He's a bigger, stronger, faster Max Duggan. Like,
yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah, more athletic than Max Duggan,
yeah.
And can make the throws as well. So, yeah, which that's why Garrett Riley wants him.
Sierra says, I hope he doesn't end up like Bubba Chandler at Clemson. He's looking promising in Major League Baseball. Yeah, I mean, Bubba Chandler is a guy. It's like I wonder what could have been, especially for Clemson baseball, because he was a phenomenal prospect. But he's been great, and he's finally getting his chance in the majors. After being really great in the minors. So. It's his time to shine. I think he made the right decision. I mean, I think baseball was ultimately his calling card. That was what he was going to do. But you just kind of wonder. He was a really good quarterback prospect. So, but at the time you didn't have the need for him either. So the same kind of need for him. Although looking back on it, it would have been nice, especially knowing what. The 2021, 2022 seasons, ended up looking like it would have been nice to have a guy like that on the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. David Wood asked if Clemson has offered Tate Reynolds' sister. I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know that at all. Tig said he doesn't trust recruiting rankings after DJU. Can't say I blame you.
Yeah, fair enough.
Fair. It's a fair point. Fair point. All right, let's see if we got anything else. Just talking about Renfro being a 0-star or a 2-star.
Yeah, 2-star option quarterback.
Option quarterback out of what? Myrtle Beach, South Carolina? Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and leave recruiting there.
Yeah.
We'll get to some questions later. All right, guys. If you did not know, the Voice of College Football officially has a webpage. So I'm going to put it up here on the screen for you guys right here. The Voice of College Football official webpage. This is where you can go to find all things Voice of College Football, not just the Clemson channel here, but all the other channels as well. You can see the schedule right there to the left of the page. You got your tabs up at the top. You can search the content. You can go to the various channels. They have their own page there. Clemson has their own page here. There's written articles by different people within the Voice of College Football umbrella that are very well written, talks about college football. So your one-stop shop for everything Voice of College Football is right here on our new website. Head over there, make an account, and go check out all the great content over there. I promise you guys will not regret it. It's an amazing new feature that we have here at the Voice of College Football. A lot of work went into establishing this website, and I just encourage you guys. I put the link there in the comment section. Go check it out. After we're done with the live show tonight, go check it out. Make yourself an account and stay up to date on all things Voice of College Football. All right, guys, we got 26 people in the live chat right now. Go ahead and hit that 28, excuse me. Go ahead and hit that like button while you're in here. Consider subscribing if you have not already, and share our video with all of your friends and family that enjoy college football content. That would be greatly appreciated. All right, Jordan, heading into the next segment, I heard a rumor that there was some more rat poison, if you will, being sprinkled about the college football media, if you will, and none other than our buddy Josh Pate over there at Pate State University. I think he's laying some traps for our Clemson Tigers. So for those of you that do not know, to put this in context, Josh Pate came out with his post-spring top 25 and had none other than our Clemson Tigers atop at number 1 on the JP top 25 post-spring poll. And we talked about this a little bit last week, Jordan, during our show about all this preseason hype, if you will, or this praise across college football media that our Clemson Tigers are getting, and how, it's fun to hear people talk positively about your team and your program, but there's always that little whisper in the back of your head that's like, man, I really hope this team isn't paying attention to this stuff too terribly much, right? I hope they're not reading their press clippings too much and getting a little too big in the ego department when it comes to leading up to this season. I call it rat poison because if you guys know, Nick Saban in an interview whenever it was talking to the media and kind of going off and said that they were sprinkling rat poisoning everywhere for his team and stuff like that. So that statement has always stuck with me. But Jordan, your thoughts on this? Obviously, we kind of addressed it a little bit last week about, we love hearing all the positive stuff about our Clemson Tigers, but there's parts of us that wish that, there was a little bit more negativity out there when it came to the 2025 Clemson Tigers. Your thoughts on our buddy Josh Pate ranking our Tigers number 1 in his post-spring top 25?
Yeah, I mean, Josh was kind of building up to this over the last few shows. Just listening. When the times when he would talk about Clemson, obviously the whole predicting the national champion based on a mock draft thing was kind of was half serious, half joking type of thing.
Yeah.
But you could tell, behind the the tongue in cheek aspects of it that he really did feel high on Clemson. And I didn't expect to see them at number 1. I mean, when you consider, the consensus is always like when you look at anybody else's like post-spring top 25 poll, you're more than likely going to see Texas and Ohio State at the very least, and Penn State and a lot of them as well ahead of Clemson. But to have them number 1, he's putting this, he's putting all his chips in on the Clemson. Yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable, but at this point, you kind of just have to embrace it because
we just got to kind of lean into it at this point.
You don't really have a choice as it's good to have this kind of pressure. I mean, I think that's what you have to remind yourself. It's good that Clemson has this kind of pressure for the first time in a while. Because I mean, we how we feel about this group coming into the season.
Right.
We think they have a team that has a legitimate shot, to be special this year. But we have never on this channel been like, okay, this is like a natty or bust, or like this team better be playing in the national championship game,
right?
Or it's a season of failure. So when the media has higher expectations than even the fan base does for the team, it can be a little strange because you're like, okay, normally, especially with the 2021 to 2023, the fan base,
the opposite,
was the opposite. They felt like Clemson was due for a bounce back season, or things were going to be better, and for one reason or another, those seasons went kind of sideways. And then last year was kind of strange because in a lot of ways you did do a lot of things to kind of get yourself back trending in the right direction, but also you had some really ugly spots there that made you cautious and hesitant, and still kind of have in the back of your mind, I don't know how I feel about this team, heading into next year. And so that it's kind of put the fan base in an uncomfortable spot where, when you look at this team on paper, you're like, man, well, shoot, there's no reason why this team won't be one of the, top 5 or 6, at worst top 5 or 6 teams in the country. But then you're like, yeah, but we thought highly of a lot of these teams in the past, the recent past at least, that didn't even come close. In some cases, didn't even come close to meeting those expectations. And it just kind of leaves you in an uncomfortable spot, because you've kind of forgotten how it feels to be confident that your team will be good, and then your team is good, like it was in during the championship years and the playoff, 6 straight playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, it was a different feeling, and you got used to it. But now, after 4 seasons of, 3 seasons of no playoff, and then and 4 seasons of multiple 3-4 losses in a season, I think the fan base has kind of reverted back to its pre-2015 kind of mindset of itself. Like, okay, I think this team is talented, but are we going to win the big games? And I think that's a fair position to have. So I think this Josh Pate poll, which is a ranking, not a power rating. So he did want to preface that this is not his power ratings that he does throughout the season. This is a ranking. More like a traditional top 25 type ranking. So that, you take from that what you will, but it is an indicator of kind of the difference in what this season seems to have in terms of expectation.
Right. Like, I don't think he's predicting Clemson to legitimately go win a national title this year. Right. I think he probably thinks they're one of the teams that have a chance this year. But, kind of the tongue in cheek and the joking about, or the halfway joking about the NFL draft projections for next season and how that pertains to national championships and all that kind of stuff. And then ultimately ranking us number 1 in his post-spring top 25 ranking, not power rating. I think it's interesting. There's 2 parts of me, right? As a Clemson Tiger fan, the one part of me, it's exciting to see the college football media pretty much as a whole talk very positively about the Clemson Tigers, because it has been, a rough 3 to 4 years for the Clemson Tiger fan. The regression was not fun. It wasn't easy to go through. It wasn't easy to come on here and do some of our post-game lives that we had to do. There's a couple that just immediately pop in my mind when I say that I will not repeat. But Jordan, you know which ones I'm talking about. That were just grueling to do, right? So it is fun to have the college football media as a whole and the mainstream media to kind of be recognizing that Clemson, has kind of turned a corner. We got our wide receiver room figured out. We hired a absolute proven asset of a defensive coordinator in Tom Allen. Our offensive line is trending in the right direction, thanks to the addition of Matt Luke. Garrett Riley in year 2 kind of figured things out. Cade Klubnik has grown up as a quarterback, right? So, we have a lot of positive things trending in the right direction. But then there's that other side of me as a Clemson fan where I'm just like, can we just get a little bit, a tinge of negativity in there, a tinge of doubt, something for Dabo to grab onto and run with, which, half joking, but I don't necessarily love the amount of praise that Clemson's getting. I like that the program's being talked about very positively. I wish it wasn't so much. I hope it dies down as the summer goes, as we get towards fall camp. I hope some of the positivity from the national media kind of dies down. I do think this this 2025 Clemson team could be great. They could be very special. But there's a lot of time between now and then. You never know what's going to happen with injuries. You got to get through fall camp. You got to see where you are. And at the end of the day, you got to line up and beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. And then win those big games, which as of late has been a problem for the Tigers. So although I'm very optimistic for this season, there's always caution when it comes to the Clemson Tigers, because this is yet to be proven, right? You do have year one defensive coordinator. Although Tom Allen has a great track record of putting production on the field as soon as he gets somewhere, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate immediately, right? We thought that was going to happen with Garrett Riley. It didn't, right? No. So it's not that far-fetched to think that maybe it doesn't go as swimmingly as some people think it's going to go in year one with Tom Allen. Although he's got an immense amount of talent on that side of the ball, that's not always, it doesn't always work out how you think it's going to work out. So obviously still very optimistic about this season, but there's caution behind it, and hoping that we prove JP right? Yeah. Josh Pate, a closet Clemson fan, I hear, by ranking Clemson number one. So, let's just go out and prove Josh Pate's post-spring top 25 poll correct. And then his conspiracy theory about the draft projections. We'll just go ahead and prove that right as well. We'll just wrap it up. Be the 2025 national champions, and college football can move on and be happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's that simple, ain't it?
It's just that simple, right? Or conspiracy theory of my own. Is Josh Pate trying to set us up?
Yeah, I
don't know.
No.
Josh Pate, are you trying to set us up? Tell us. You trying to set some trap?
We know you've watched the show before. So.
Yeah, that's right. Let us know. Are you trying to set us up? Yeah. I just want to know. Are you participating in the setup of our Clemson Tigers?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Far be it from you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just kidding. All right. Let's move on.
Yeah.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
All right, guys, make sure you guys are using the Amazon link like Mark said right there. That'd be greatly appreciated. We got 29 people in the live chat right now. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Hit that like button. Yeah, jump scared by our very own Mark Rogers there.
Yeah. I love that. Love doing that. Just
great. I love just no warning. Just click it on.
Yeah.
Every time. Make sure everybody's awake out there in the YouTube world.
Oh, yeah. You will be quizzed at the end of the show. So
yeah, absolutely. There will be a test. I hope you've been taking notes.
Yes.
ACC Media Days, or I guess post-spring ACC meetings just happened for our Clemson Tigers and the rest of the ACC. Obviously, there were interviews by Dabo. There were interviews by Commissioner Jim Phillips. And one of the topics that was brought up, Jordan, was this new scheduling agreement between Clemson and Notre Dame. We talked about this last week, about how beneficial the scheduling agreement was for both universities and really the ACC as a whole. I know it kind of financially benefits Clemson. It financially benefits Notre Dame, but ultimately it does put the ACC on national television for a big-time game for the next 12 seasons, right, starting in 2026. But with that said, Jim Phillips was asked about Notre Dame's 5 games that they are required to play against ACC schools every single year, and he made it very clear that this agreement does not count when it comes to the ACC's agreement with Notre Dame and those 5 games that they must play against ACC opponents every single season. So what does that mean? That means that the 5 games that were already scheduled between Clemson and Notre Dame will count towards those 5, right? So in those seasons that Notre Dame was already scheduled to play Clemson, those games will count. The other 7 that Clemson and Notre Dame scheduled will not count towards those 5. So I guess in those seasons, Clemson or Notre Dame would have to play Clemson plus an additional 5 ACC teams. So they would be playing 6 ACC games in those years. So basically the only years that will count with the 12-year scheduling agreement between Clemson and Notre Dame will be the 27th season, 28, 31, 34, and 37. So those seasons will count towards the 5 that they must play. The other 7 seasons will not count. Your thoughts on this and why the ACC is taking this stance? And does it surprise you? Did you think the ACC was going to count this as one of the 5 games with the new scheduling agreement, or does it make sense that the ACC is only recognizing the 5 that were previously scheduled?
Yeah, I'm glad we got clarity on it because when we talked about this last week, it was reported that the games would count.
Yes.
So now, but now we have an official statement from the commissioner that says they won't. So, what does this mean for Clemson? Not very much. It doesn't really change anything. For Notre Dame, one of the advantages I think that this series did give them was that guaranteed. That one guaranteed schedule boosting, team that would be in that 5 team ACC rotation every single year. So obviously that's gone, I guess, because now the years that they don't already have Clemson scheduled, they'll still have to play 5 more ACC teams, which does take away another non-conference spot, or scheduling. Yeah, and obviously they're independent, so they don't have any, fixed opponents from a conference standpoint. Obviously, they have their rivalry with USC, but that's even in question right now.
Yeah.
So, I still think this is a good deal for Notre Dame regardless, but it does kind of lessen the it does lessen one of the advantages that I thought that this deal would have given them had those games counted towards the 5 that they play every year. So I don't know. It's strange because it seemed like on Notre Dame's side, they seemed to think that it would, that it would count. So I don't know if there were discussions after the fact with the ACC or whatever, or if there's a conflict there. I don't know. But the ACC has come out and Jim Phillips has come out and said that okay, they do not count unless there are except for the games that were already scheduled.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. I still think for Notre Dame, with the USC series being in question because USC seems to be terrified of playing a tough non-conference. Now
they just can't afford to play another Power 5 team, Jordan.
I don't know, man. It's too hard.
It's too hard. They gotta go play all those Big Ten teams. They got to play Maryland and Nebraska and it's tough, man. Rutgers.
Yeah, I know, man, and it's so difficult. Like, one of the things that they would always say is like, okay, but it's like, yeah, but we have to play Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan and Wisconsin and all the and Iowa, all the big bigger programs in the Big Ten, and I'm like,
right.
Okay, what years are you actually playing all those teams?
Yeah, like
in the same year.
You even have a single year where you're playing the top 4 teams in the Big Ten. Probably not.
I highly doubt it.
You're probably playing like 2 of those top 4 programs at most a year.
So,
and that's probably not every year.
So I don't know what that's about. Don't know how that's going. Like I don't know if like we're going to lose the Notre Dame USC yearly rivalry. I think that would kind of suck as a college football fan. Because
I mean it would suck because it's another thing on the long list of now things that we're losing as college football fans, right? Like we could make a list that would that would extend the length of North Carolina at this point, of just little things that we've lost as college football fans. And some of them people don't see as significant. Some people see them as significant, but it just like we've slowly chipped away at, in my opinion, kind of the fabric of college football. And that would just be another series that's going to die due to conference realignment, the SEC and the Big Ten possibly going to 9 conference games, which, in that sense, they're not going to want to schedule other Power 5 non-conference games, right, other than their rivals. So like Georgia, for instance, if the SEC were to go to a 9-game conference schedule, they're going to play Georgia Tech. So that's 10 Power 5 opponents. They're probably not going to be interested in playing Clemson and having 11 Power 5 opponents on the schedule in a given season, right?
Yeah.
So that's when you see kind of the projection of this, like the Clemson-Notre Dame series or scheduling agreement makes more sense because we are assuming that at some point the SEC is probably going to go to non-conference games. And that deal with Georgia, those home and homes, are going to go away, right? USC, same thing with the Big Ten, right? That scheduling with Notre Dame probably going to go away. So it does make sense. I think one of the things that kind of comes to mind when I think about it, not counting for their 5 ACC opponents, I think that shuts the door on them doing any more scheduling agreements within the ACC conference.
Yeah.
Right. So like, I know when Clemson and Notre Dame announced this scheduling agreement, this 12-year scheduling agreement, some of the other bigger brands in the ACC, Florida State, Miami, you heard rumblings from their fans and stuff about, are we going to do some sort of scheduling agreement with Notre Dame? And I think Notre Dame would entertain that if it counted towards their ACC games. But now that it doesn't, I think that door's probably shut. Not that I don't know that they were going to entertain it anyway, but I think they definitely won't now because they still have to play 5 additional ACC games on top of this Clemson one in the years that it wasn't already scheduled. So 7 times in the next 12 years, should Clemson be in the conference for that long, they would have to play 5 additional ACC games, right? So I think that's kind of an interesting piece of it that I don't think they'll be looking for any other scheduling agreements with ACC teams.
And I do think they would have entertained it too, because I mean there have been on the Notre Dame side of things people that would know more about the situation than I do or any of us do. The Notre Dame administration felt like they had been talking about how they wanted to play Clemson, Florida State, Miami more often because their rotation, when they're getting a Wake Forest and a Syracuse and a Pitt on the schedule it's not the scheduling, it's not the schedule booster that Notre Dame, especially in this era of college football, and it's not, and I'm not even, it's not even really from a scheduling standpoint because honestly, I think Notre Dame's schedule is pretty tough. Contrary to what people seem to say about them, because when you look at Notre Dame's schedule every year, and especially within the last few seasons, Notre Dame has scheduled they played some really, really tough games, and they've had some really tough schedules. Like I think they schedule about as tough as they can be, considering, their, when you consider their rivalries and their yearly rivalries with, Stanford, which obviously kind of went away when, Stanford joined the ACC and conference realignment happened. But, I think they play them this year, so that's good, I guess. They always play Navy. They have these obligations. Of course, they always play USC, but they go out and schedule these, these other teams. Like they haven't been, they scheduled that home and home with Georgia. They've gone and played, the Wisconsins of the world. And like, they're about to play Miami this year, which I guess is part of the agreement, or the scheduling rotation, but still, like, Notre Dame goes out and they go and schedule pretty strong. And so I think even just from a national brand, like TV viewership, all of that, when you factor all of that in, I think Notre Dame had a lot of incentive to want to play, the better teams in the ACC more often, instead of, filling their 5 ACC game obligation with teams that nobody, matchups that nobody cares about. And so I think they would, like, had this had come up, or had it, gone further, like, I think you would have potentially seen a Florida State, Notre Dame type of scheduling. I don't know if it would have been 12 years every single year, but some sort of thing where Notre Dame is playing the bigger brands in the conference more often. People are going to watch Notre Dame play Florida State, no matter, even if Florida State's not particularly good. That's going to get more views than playing an 8-4 Pitt or Syracuse. That's just the reality. And so people are going to watch them play Miami. That's going to be a really big, that got scheduled. I think that got announced for 7:30 on ABC this year. That's going to be one of the most watched games of the year. Those are two. That's the return of Catholics versus convicts and all that. So it's like there are a lot of reasons for Notre Dame to want to schedule the bigger teams, and now that kind of seems to be out the window. This might be just kind of a one-time thing with Clemson. So we'll see. We'll see what turns out. I'm still excited for it. I haven't seen a Notre Dame fan that hasn't been excited for it. I haven't seen another Clemson fan that isn't excited for it. I think it's still great for both parties. But on the Notre Dame side of things, it kind of lessens the deal a little bit. But it's still
they did lose one of the incentives of doing this scheduling agreement by not counting for 7 of those 12 years. But at the end of the day, I think it still makes sense for both universities, and I don't think it affects the scheduling agreement at all. So we'll see how it plays out. John Sarian says we should get Will, our resident Notre Dame fan, on to talk about it from a Notre Dame standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do that in an upcoming show for sure. But I'm not surprised by Jim Phillips' response to it. They're going to try to protect the ACC. And, I think the whole deal by not counting it is they're not trying to take a game away from another ACC team in that season that otherwise would have played Notre Dame and would have had a higher rating game than they otherwise would have. So, but again, we'll see how it all hashes out. But I'm still excited for the series, just like you, Jordan. I think it's great. I can't wait for 2027 when it kicks off and we get to watch a home and home back and forth for 12 straight seasons. Hopefully all 12 of those games actually happen. One never knows. Catch Clemson live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts. Clemson Live is there. Search Clemson Live. All of our long-form content is on there. All of our shows, all of our videos you can consume in podcast form. So whenever, wherever you like to listen to your podcast, whether you're on a run, you're on a walk, you're working out, you're just at work with headphones in, wherever you like to listen to your podcast, search Clemson Live, give us a rate, review, subscribe over there, and listen to our content in podcast form. and that would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Intelligence Savages says we are the 7:30 game on ABC. Yeah, on Saturday. The Notre Dame Miami game is on the following day. Is on the 31st, I think.
Absolutely.
So ABC is airing. They have the Sunday night ABC game. Clemson and LSU have the 7:30, which we're about to talk about.
Absolutely. Speaking of game times, Jordan, the Clemson-LSU game was just announced to be played in the Death Valley at 7:30 on ABC. Going to be the prime time game of the opening weekend for the ABC's time slot. Our Clemson Tigers taking on the LSU Tigers in the real Death Valley for all of those LSU fans out there. It was Death Valley long before you ever thought about calling yours Death Valley. So stop copying us. I don't know what to tell you. You can beat your SEC check. Yes, you play in a better conference. Yes, half of your fan base doesn't speak English. Yes, you have more alligators than us. Yes. But no, you do not have the real Death Valley. Our Death Valley was dubbed Death Valley long before you ever thought about it. Speaking of not speaking English well, your stadium was originally called Death Valley, as in I can't hear death, not death. So, Again, shout out to Louisiana. A little bit of a language barrier there, but Death Valley and Death Valley, two different things. Just food for thought for the LSU fans. Feel free to get into the comment section and tell me all the reasons that I'm wrong. But you know it's true. I know it's true. All right, Jordan, let's get to the game. LSU, Clemson in the real Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina, 7:30 kickoff. We've talked about this game a couple times this offseason, but I'm so jacked up. I'm so excited now because it's officially the primetime slot, a night game in the Valley. This is going to be electric. No love lost between the two fan bases, obviously, with the back and forth. But this is going to be an exciting game. It's going to be an absolute mob there for outside of the stadium and the tailgate scene, but inside the stadium as well. It's going to be an atmosphere that people are not going to want to miss. So your thoughts on the official announcement of it being that primetime 7:30 game and being a night game in the Valley?
Yeah, I'm just happy ESPN did the right thing.
Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, that there's no reason why this wasn't the primetime game. I get you got Ohio State and Texas, but this environment, the environment that Clemson was going to bring with a team like LSU coming into town. And the fact that Clemson, you haven't seen Clemson or Death Valley in the primetime slot in a game of this magnitude, and really about what 9 years if you go back to Louisville, and even 12 years when you go back to when you played Georgia at home. Like, you haven't had, especially a home opener.
Yeah,
like this, you have not had a game of this magnitude in the Valley in quite some time. And so there is no reason why this wasn't the primetime game. I'm glad they did the right thing. This is what college football needs, because this is going to be one of the it's going to be something to behold. Like, there's no doubt about it. And I plan to be there, so I can't wait to kind of experience that in person. I've been a part of some really great atmospheres at Clemson, but this one might be an all-timer.
Yeah, this is gonna, you hope that the game holds serve for it, but this is going to be an absolute insane environment. And you're right. Shout out to ESPN for doing the right thing. It's the right game to put there. It's going to be electric. Clemson running down the hill, the smoke, the fans cheering, the light show going. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere, and I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be Man, I'm so jacked up for week one. I wish it was this coming Saturday, but it's not. But I am excited that Clemson gets to showcase once again on a national stage how special of a place it is in Death Valley, and I mean that sincerely. It's a very unique environment. You don't really understand it till you go there. And yeah, I'm a Clemson homer and blah 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 blah. But I always question NFL fans, and I'm like, you just don't get college until you like actually go to a college football game, and that atmosphere on that August 30th night in Death Valley is going to be picturesque of like why all of us love college football to the level that we do. And every fan base has got it in their own stadium, right? But Clemson's special to us, so that's like I get jacked up for games like this. Like it gives you goosebumps when you're a part of environments like that. You will never sit down. You can't hear after the game. You can't even think straight. It's so loud most of the time. But it's an electric environment. I can't wait. I know this team's going to be jacked up and ready for it. And I know LSU is going to be jacked up and ready for it too. They would love nothing more than to come in to our stadium and steal one on national television, and then claim that they're the real Death Valley, which I already told you guys at the beginning. If you forgot, just go back to the beginning of the video. I explained it to you.
They probably did. They don't they don't retain information as well as some of us down there. No, but seriously, like it's going to be special. I mean, I think just from a Clemson standpoint, I think this is what the university needs, because there's certainly been just there have been complaints and kind of a watering down of the atmosphere in recent years because of all the changes. They haven't been filling up the hill the way that they used to.
They better fill it up now. Yeah. After that Savannah Bananas game, I don't want to hear it no more.
Yep. No more excuses.
Fire hazard. Nah. No. They better fill up that hill for that one.
Yeah. They got to fill up the hill. Like, as much as I think Clemson has done a lot of things that they need to do to, keep up with the times in college athletics, you can't lose the common fan. And, some of the things that have been frustrated, I've seen, Clemson do over the years, I think has alienated, some of the common fan. They've catered more to, the booster member and IPTE members and stuff like that. And I think that's important. I mean, because
of course
they keep your program, running.
That's where your money comes from.
Yeah.
You gotta keep those people happy.
Yeah. But at the same time, those are not the majority of the people in that stadium.
Not even close.
Not even close. So, like, you need to keep the main thing.
Yeah,
I think, and that's what I'm hoping this game does for Clemson football is kind of a reset from that aspect, and kind of brings everybody back into the fold again.
Right.
Because you just haven't had it. I mean, I thought you've had some moments. I thought. I wasn't at the Florida State game in 2023, but I thought that was a phenomenal atmosphere. You could hear it on the TV. I was at the 2022 NC State game. That was a top 10. That was a great atmosphere. But we haven't had those types of games and those types of atmospheres as consistently because because of some of the changes that they've made. And obviously this LSU game, you've seen the ticket prices. Yeah, it's going to cost you a pretty penny. Yeah. But
ready to cash in the equity on your home, take out a second mortgage, sell a car. I don't know, sell a kidney. I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but you might have to if you want to drink this game.
Yeah, I mean, shoot.
Or just start panhandling on the corner every weekend between now and August 30th.
Yeah, and especially with ticket scalpers, it's gotten so bad too because it's made things like a million times more difficult. So
I remember when me and my dad used to go to games and like we wouldn't plan anything. Like we'd wake up on a Saturday morning and he'd be like, "Hey, we're going,"
We're going to the game.
And drive up there, and there'd be people outside the stadium selling tickets, and we just grab 2 tickets and go in. And it wasn't a big deal, but I can't imagine doing something like that today.
No,
you'd have to give them a brick of gold or something.
Yeah, I know. You'd probably give them your foot and
like, here's the keys to my car.
Here's my wife.
Yeah.
Like, it's just that's just like
it's out of control. But there's no shortage of storylines heading into this game either. Like, it just feeds into the environment that it'll be. Like the clashing of the fan bases online, the trash talk between the Death Valleys, the 2 Tigers, right? SEC, that whole thing, and then, it's going to be a crazy environment. You think about Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier. We may not have had quite that clash of highly thought of, highly ranked QBs since Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson in Death Valley, right? So that's a huge storyline going into it. Obviously the battle of the can't win openers. That'll be played out on the field between Kelly and Dabo. So we'll see, man. There's no shortage of storylines. It's going to be fun. The question is, will College Game Day be there? I'm still going with no. I still think they'll be at the Ohio State game. That's just my thoughts. But I guess it wouldn't surprise me if they were there. But I just feel like ESPN's not going to be able to resist the storyline of letting Lee Corso go out the same place that he started the whole thing. Yeah. And that's why I think otherwise they would come to Clemson on that opening Saturday. But I think because of the Lee Corso thing and it being his last show, I think they'll still go to Ohio State.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And, it screams. It's exactly what they would do. I mean, especially now that Texas is in the SEC, like they have even more incentive to do it from an ESPN standpoint. And these are the two of the biggest brands in college football. So that's just what they're going to do. And obviously they probably and honestly they probably don't want to have Lee Corso out there too long. During the day, if they were at Clemson, obviously the game wouldn't be played until
right.
7:30. So it's like, do it. He picks whatever a mascot helmet he picks, and then just call it a career. But we'll take the wins where we can get them. Because we were before we weren't even sure this was going to get the primetime slot.
Yeah.
So
I was definitely hoping for it. But definitely excited now that it's been officially announced that it's the primetime slot, and rightfully so. Excuse me. This is a huge game, so I'm excited for it. I know you are as well. We'll leave that there. Make sure you guys are checking us out on all the socials. Okay, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're all over social media. I already mentioned our Voice of College Football website. You see our Instagram right here, the Voice of College Football official Instagram page there. So check it out. Give us a follow over there. Also check us out on Twitter. Let me pull that up for you guys so you can see it. Our official Twitter page. Follow us over there on Twitter as well. All the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go check out the site. The Voice of College Football site. Give us a follow over there, and that'd be greatly appreciated as well. If that would load, my goodness, my computer's struggling tonight, absolutely struggling. There's the Voice of College Football official Twitter page, X page, whatever you want to call it. Give it a follow over there. All the links are in the chat section now. Let me stop sharing my screen before my computer has a conniption. It is not good. Also, follow me and Jordan over there on Twitter as well. Jordan Jobo0209 and my handle TPC_CFB. Give us a follow over there. And that would be greatly appreciated as well. With all of that said, make sure you like the video. We got 34 people in here right now. So that means if I go check, we should have 34 likes on the video. Do your homework, okay? All it is just hitting that like button for us, okay? Appreciate that. Also, if you're in here, you've been in here for an hour and a half, you might as well hit that subscribe button and get us closer to that 6,000 subscriber goal that we're currently on. And then also consider becoming a channel member. Support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show and the Clemson at the Voice of College Football channel as a whole. So consider doing that. And with that said, it is time for the chat section. I guess I'm running the chat section tonight. A little bit weird for me. This is outside of my norm. So you guys bear with me. I will do my best. Don't judge me. I don't want to hear no complaining from the chat. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see what the people are talking about. I started a couple from earlier, Jordan. So I'll start with those, and then we'll get into some more of them.
At least I can still see the starred comments. That's cool. I can actually click on those.
First one from Intelligent Savage. We have to take care of business against LSU. Game 1. We travel to LSU in 2026 with a different QB. So a message must be made here in 2025 about what's coming their way in 2026 with our program.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about this matchup is obviously overwhelmingly more than likely, basically guaranteed that both teams will be starting new quarterbacks in that 2026 matchup. So, theoretically, you'd be coming into that game on a relatively even playing field. Clemson would probably be the one reeling from more losses to the draft, but still, it's from a quarterback situation. That won't be an angle that we have to worry. Really, think about. Oh man, this team has the advantage because they're returning their quarterback. Like I don't know. Yeah, won't have to worry about that. But yeah, I mean, I do think this is a must-win game. I mean, not even just from an LSU, like just looking at next year in LSU, it has a lot of program implications. So, yeah, I mean, this is one of the biggest home games that Clemson has played in quite some time. So
yeah, I mean, it means so much for a lot of different reasons. One, we got to break the streak of losing the SEC teams.
Yeah.
2, this is a massive opportunity for Clemson to start changing the narrative, the national narrative, about where their program stands when it comes to the best programs in college football. This would go a long way in changing the narrative in the national media about who Clemson is as a college football program, right? Are we trending back in the direction that we were at for that 6-year playoff run? Or are we continuing to just kind of falter and kind of stay this, 9 to 10 win team, losing games against teams that you're kind of better than, right? So it'll go a long way in kind of quieting some narratives that have been around the program for the last 3 to 4 years. And it's huge. It cannot be understated how important the game is. So I completely agree with you. Jay says, all this talk about Brian Kelly and winning his openers, I'm doubtful of Clemson until they can win one as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, the battle of the can't win an opener. It'll be played out on the field come August 30th.
Yep. You lost 3 of your last 4.
Yeah. It ain't good. So we'll see. John Sarian says, seems like my comment last week was right about Notre Dame's. Phillips is not giving in, and the 7 originally not scheduled Clemson games won't be conference games. Absolutely.
Yep. Like it doesn't really change much for Clemson, but
yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
Not at all. LSU got the best number 1 QB. Cade must be chopped liver, says David Wood.
We need more of this.
Yes, we did. Yeah, Garrett Nussmeier, best returning college quarterback in the nation. You heard it here first. Start putting that out in the ether, people.
Yes, indeed.
Garrett Nussmeier, number 1 returning college football quarterback. Seriously thought LSU receivers with the QB are a full test for Allen in game 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, that is as good and as talented as we've talked about with Clemson's wide receiver room. Like, I mean, LSU has one of the best in the country too. You know, especially with the addition of Barian Brown and Aaron Anderson.
Yeah, I was about to say they've done some crazy work in the portal. They're going to test that Clemson secondary. You know, the one good thing I think that you can counter that with is Clemson's got a really, really good returning defensive line that you expect to be much improved this year, and LSU is replacing some pieces along that offensive line. So could be a bit of a equaling out there. We'll see.
Yeah.
If you can get to the quarterback, make Garrett, speed him up, make him uncomfortable, hit him a little bit, start making him see ghosts back there, you could kind of limit what they can do. But again, they're going to test you. There's no easing into it for this Tom Allen defense. They're gonna go through the grinder in week 1. So it's not going to be easy.
Yep. I mean, that's going to be a vaunted group for sure. And you know, the plan is not going to let Garrett Nussmeier sit back in the pocket, because that's where he does his best stuff. I mean, he'll make some special, even if you think you have everything covered. That's one thing that I love about Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, the guy he flat out has a great arm. I mean, elite arm talent. Like, the guy just makes throws that you're just not going to see very often, the rest of the year. So you can't give him time to make those throws, because he will make them. Sometimes that means he'll throw a couple extra interceptions, but also he'll make some wow throws and kill you downfield. So if you don't, the thing he doesn't do well is play out of structure. He doesn't really have as much of a plan when the rush gets to him. He can make some off-platform throws. I mean, that is a part of his game, but when you speed him up a little bit, he doesn't really have as much of a plan, and he's not a huge threat to run the ball. So definitely take your chances with him, trying to make plays outside of structure. And of course, if you can get sacks and tackles for loss, that's the ideal. But you definitely don't want to give him time, especially with how green LSU's offensive line is going to be.
So it says, coming off how bad their O-line played last year, they got a bunch of new pieces there, but it's so important for our defensive line to beat them early and often and make them have flashbacks of last year. Yeah, that's going to be key. It's going to be key going into the game. You got to affect Garrett Nussmeier. You can't let him sit back there and pick you apart with that wide receiver core. You can't put your guys, you can't put your corners and your safeties out there on islands and just expect them to hold up. You got to pressure the quarterback, no doubt about it. Yep. Tig says, "Here's my wife, Jordan. You ain't right for that."
I'm just saying. I mean, that's how it is nowadays with these ticket scalpers. It's predatory, man. What they're doing.
It's crazy.
And it's not. I mean, it's not just sports. It's a internet problem when it comes to tickets, concert tickets, whatever you think of. Scalpers suck.
Tiger Stripe Media says he could see Clemson leaving the ACC in 2028. What you think about that?
Honestly, any I'm done making predictions on when Clemson will leave the ACC. I just people looking at that 2031 date when the buyout drops to 75 million. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but I'm done making. I'm done trying to predict when that's going to happen. So I don't know.
David Wood's got a conspiracy theory for you, Jordan. He said, investigate the ACC. Notre Dame is paying off someone for sure.
Well, if Notre Dame is paying off someone, they are not getting that return on investment. That's for sure. I mean, yeah, I guess the only angle. I mean, obviously the initial deal they struck with the ACC is obviously from a Notre Dame perspective has been beneficial. Because they don't have to be part of the conference and they can still they still get a slice of the pie, and they get to they get some scheduling stability, and they get to maintain their independence and their deal with NBC. Those things, but that's old. But lately, if they're still paying people off, they have not gotten their return on investment. That's for sure.
David also says, I hope Notre Dame's coach goes to the NFL. I don't think so. I doubt it.
I don't think it would. I don't think it's going to happen. But
he don't seem like an NFL guy to me. But I mean,
I don't know.
I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know a ton about him, but
I know he got a lot of NFL offer. I think he got a few NFL offers the past couple of off seasons. I think the NFL does like him. So, but I don't think he's as high. I mean, I think he's very much a Notre Dame guy at this point. Like, I don't. Like the guy converted to Catholicism when he took the job. Like, I don't know.
Man changed his whole religion.
Yeah, he literally changed his whole religion.
You know how people get about their religion.
That's not even a requirement to You don't have to be a Catholic to be the Notre Dame head coach, but he did it anyway.
He took all in. He took all in to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Watch this.
Watch this." the usher. Watch this.
Oh, Tig says, I admire the mutual respect of Notre Dame fans and Clemson fans. Notre Dame plays Clemson with classy sportsmanship.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's definitely a healthy amount of respect between especially between the schools, but even between the fan bases. Like, there's a lot, and it's kind of strange because you wouldn't think it, fan base from rural South Carolina, and then a kind of what people perceive to be like a wine and cheese type of fan base in Indiana. You don't really see kind of how they would mesh, but especially I think just because, especially lately with how, at least during the Dabo Swinney era, with how they run their programs, Clemson and Notre Dame align very much in a lot of ways, and how they believe you should run a college football program. They do a lot of the same things in recruiting. They kind of preach the same message. They go after the same type of kids. They kind of have the same philosophy when it comes to building a program. And I think that's kind of it's been a natural kind of partnership. I think just as in recent years, it's just the two share a lot of common goals and interests, and that's made it really easy to it made it really easy for this to happen, and they've maintained a close relationship throughout the years, and and obviously playing each other in some high leverage games, college football playoffs, ACC championships, big time regular season games. Like, I think it's developed into a respectful pseudo type of rivalry, and who knows, maybe by the time this schedule agreement goes away, goes and finishes up, we might be saying Notre Dame is a rival. Could be
a future rival.
Could happen.
We ain't there yet, but
yeah,
could turn into one. If all 12 of those games happen, I mean, you're probably it's going to turn into somewhat of a rivalry.
Yeah.
At least.
I don't know what you would call it otherwise.
Jay says, week 1, biggest battle we need to win is our defensive ends versus their offensive tackles.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think that's going to be your biggest advantage. Will Campbell's gone. Emory Jones is gone.
Yeah.
Starting new faces. And, they still don't, through spring, I don't think they still have a great idea of what that lineup is going to look like. So, yeah, I mean, that's got to be a main focus in this game is winning those battles and getting to Garrett Nussmeier. So you have at least the starting defensive ends to do it. And if you have enough, if you get enough from the guys behind, TJ Parker and Will Help, that it might be a long day for those tackles. So
could be.
And they may end up being good players, but it's week 1 and it's a new offensive line. It's right. It just happens.
Tig says, "Can we please, for the love of God, get a punter?"
I'm done even discussing punter until we actually get some kind of news on that front.
Oh man.
I'm just rolling with the assumption that Jack Smith is your punter, and we'll see what comes of that. I don't know what to tell you.
Man, I don't really want to say this, but can it get any worse than it was a year ago?
I don't know, man.
Theoretically, it could, but
I know some people that have seen both that saw both of them punt, and they said there was a reason. They said there's a reason Aiden Swanson was.
No. I don't even want to hear that. No, that can't be true.
I don't know, man. That doesn't mean he didn't get better. That doesn't mean Jack Smith didn't get better.
Y'all need to pray about that one.
I was just saying, Aiden Swanson was your best punter when he was here. Take that for what it's worth.
That's saying a lot. Talking about LSU, Jay says their wide receivers are going to get theirs. I just think you have to take advantage of that fresh offensive line. That's a good cure for any passing game is pressuring the quarterback.
Yeah.
Wet Sox said just made it back in. Who's going to make it to the Valley for the LSU game?
This guy. I will be there. Barring anything crazy. I will be there. So I wonder how we're gonna. I guess we'll figure out how we're gonna do the post game. Who knows? Maybe I do it live from the stadium with the.
We just need you to just bring a chair, right? Bring a folding chair, and we'll just do it live from the 50-yard line. Okay.
Oh, that would be so. They wouldn't let me. They probably wouldn't let me do that.
They would not let us do that. We just sit right here, and it won't. We'll just be here an hour or so.
Yeah, that's the thing, Jay. The Wi-Fi is also. Just the service in. I'd have to leave the stadium. I definitely couldn't do it in the stadium because there's no way.
They got some sort of cell phone blockers in that stadium. I swear, they do it on purpose.
It's so bad.
Oh, Jay taking a shot at the in-state rivals. Said, I don't think that school in Columbia will be much of a quality win next year. So definitely want that LSU win.
It's possible. I've been reserving judgment on how I feel about that team heading into this year because I frankly didn't think they were going to be as good as they were last year, and they surprised me. So
Somebody better tell Carolina jackpot. He ain't gonna be happy.
Shout out to Carolina.
Yeah, shout out to Carolina jackpot. We need to get him on the show one of these days. I'm trying to get. John Sering says BYOG or sell. Randall starts versus LSU. He also gets a touchdown. Seems like starting is in the cards, so I'm adding an extra.
Starts versus LSU and
starts and gets a touchdown. I do think he starts.
I'll buy it. I'm thinking, like, especially if Clemson is in goal line situations.
Oh yeah, he's definitely running.
They've shown in limited times we've seen him, throughout the spring. They feel they like him as a in those goal line situations because he's long, and tough to tackle, and he's big. Yeah, he's got strong legs. Like, I think
even if you take his legs, he's going to fall forward for 3 yards.
Yeah.
So
I'll buy that.
I will as well. Intelligent Savage said, outside of Todd Gurley and the Georgia Bulldogs and Lamar Jackson and the Louisville Cardinals, what would you say is the next biggest game in Death Valley?
Like, ever?
Recent memory?
Or just recent memory, yeah.
I would say recent memory.
Because, if we were talking ever, then we'd have to – there's some games we'd have to discuss. The 1981 North Carolina game, that was a home game, wasn't it? That was that 10-8 victory. That was the first top 10 game in ACC history. Obviously there were some big home games during the Bowden years. Miami, that was which Miami game was it? Was it 05? No, you lost that one. That was the triple overtime one. Then you won at Miami in 09. I think 07 was it? It might have been 07. The Auburn game in 2011. That was a massive one. Florida State in 2011. Okay, the 10-8 game was in Chapel Hill. Okay, was it the Georgia game that year when Herschel Walker didn't score? Was that in Clemson?
Held him out of the end zone.
Yeah, I think that was in Clemson. Maybe not, but I'm not sure. Obviously the 2015 Notre Dame game, that's got to be up there.
Yeah, 2015 Notre Dame game.
Let's see.
That Florida State game was terrible. That one you mentioned. We got blown out by Jameis Winston.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, 20. Yeah, that was 20. I was thinking of 2011 when you actually beat them. You beat them in 11. That was the EJ Manuel. That was EJ Manuel.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't. That would that have been? No, that was Christian Ponder, because that was. No, I had it right. No, that was 2011 would have been EJ Manuel, and then 09 was the DeAndre McDaniel pick six, and he trucked Christian Ponder. Yeah, that's it. That was it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, that's tough. Like the next, because you named, that Georgia game was great.
The Georgia game, the Louisville game with Lamar Jackson. That was a crazy game.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Notre Dame game, the Hurricane game already.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. David said the Georgia game in '81 was in Clemson. Yeah. That one had like how many? They turned the ball over what, like, yeah. Oh, he even put it. Yeah, 9 turnovers. Yeah, 9 turnovers, man. That was. I'm saying it like I remember it, but that game will forever live in Clemson lore. Especially with considering how the season ended. Underrated 2014 South Carolina breaking the streak.
Yeah. The awful
Watson playing on the torn ACL. That one was up there. That one's got to be up there.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Even though South Carolina wasn't that great that year, but just the importance of that game. Trying to think. We named a lot of the big hitters. I don't know which one I would pick though. I would say the Notre Dame game in 2015 would be.
Yeah, that one definitely stands out to me.
I would pick that one or the '81 Georgia game. Like, I think those two are probably. I think those would be my picks first and foremost, and then, you could throw in. I don't know. Honestly, I mean, you could pick a couple of games from 2016, not just the Lamar Jackson game. The NC State game. None of that. We don't remember that season nearly the same if you don't pull that one out. Kyle Bambert or whatever his name was missing that field goal.
Mm-hmm.
And sending that game to overtime. Marcus Edmond getting the interception. And Marcus Edmond had two. He saved your season twice that year because he had the interception in overtime that won you that game in NC State, and then obviously he made the stop on James Quick short of the sticks. So,
which still haunts Louisville fans to this day.
Yeah, I still don't know why he didn't fall forward like that.
I don't either. I have no idea. All he had to do was fall forward. I'm glad he didn't, though.
Yeah, Isaac Smith, 2018 Syracuse, when Trevor gets knocked out the first series, and Chase Bryce has to go win you that game, and you come back. I mean, that game was really on the back of Travis Etienne, and Chase Bryce made one big 4th and 6 throw, but still, like, it was
without that throw. That's when Chase Bryce became a legend in Clemson lore forever.
It was a phenomenal throw too. I mean, put it on where only T could get it. Yeah. Shout out to Chase Bryce.
Absolutely. That guy, 2883, says, and it's Saturday night in the fake Death Valley.
Oh, word.
Sir.
Okay.
I already explained to you. Already explained. Check the dates.
Yeah, check the dates. That's all we got to do.
We got you by like
at least a decade.
30 years.
Well, like, so I think the earliest time they called LSU Death Valley was like 1980s. No, I think it was earlier than that. I think it was like the I think it was like the early 60s. I know Clemson got the nickname in like 40.
In the 40s.
48.
Yeah. It was in the 1940s.
Yeah. So either way, Clemson predates. They have the claim to the nickname. Like,
yeah. Y'all just need to go back to calling it Death Valley.
And they'll come, like, LSU fans will come back and say, "Well, we beat you in a natty." And
don't matter.
That's great, but like these teams, first of all, we've never played each other in either of each other's home stadiums, so I mean, cool, but like, and I guess LSU basically had a glorified home game in that national championship, but that's a different conversation.
Definitely a home game.
But still, like it doesn't really. If we're talking about the acclaim to the nickname and in the stadium, like what does a neutral site? What do neutral site games have to do with that? Like, I don't know. I mean, LSU had the better team in 2019, but that doesn't mean like they have the better stadium, they have the better atmosphere, and they have claim to the nickname. Like, so I don't know. All right, I'm relying on you. Remember, I can't.
Oh, yeah. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted. All right. What do we got? All right. Interesting question from Sierra. Would winning the national championship this year make it easier or harder to leave the ACC?
I don't really have an answer to that because, on the one, your initial probably response would be, oh, it would make it easier, right? Because I mean, it would make Clemson more marketable and all of that. But when you think about it, like if you win a national championship, especially in this, 12-team playoff, probably soon to be 16-team playoff era, the incentive to want to find a different situation is less and less. I mean, if you're capable of winning a title and even in this version of the ACC, would you want to leave? I don't know. I know there's obviously a lot of tension between Clemson and the ACC because of the lawsuit, and maybe some of that is, I don't know, like it's irreconcilable.
Yeah,
I don't know if I said that word right. Usually I'm pretty good with words, but I that one I don't. There's too many syllables, man.
You're good. You're good.
Shoot, but anyway, like I don't think. I think there are a lot of reasons why it would be easier and why it would be harder, because I think from Clemson internally, if you win a national championship, I don't know, you're the need to find greener pastures kind of seems less and less. If you're able to win, but that might change when, as we get deeper into this deal and you start to see the
look, you got to talk to the 16-team playoff. My personal feeling on it is it doesn't change anything either way. I do get the argument that, if you can win a national championship in the ACC, why go anywhere else? I completely understand that. But on the other hand, at what point does the financial gap become so large that even with the unequal revenue share, you're still too far behind to even compete, right? And I'm not just talking about paying players, because my hope is that with the House settlement, some of the NIL, well, what we call NIL, but really what it is, it's pay for play, gets cleaned up and put out of the sport. And we just have regular NIL as it is supposed to be. You provide a service, or you put your name behind something, and I financially reward you for that, right? You do a commercial, you do a social media post, you make an appearance, you sign some autographs, whatever. That's NIL. A booster just giving you $1 million to come to a university is not NIL. That's pay for play, which is what NIL currently is, right? So my hope with the Cal settlement, that gets worked out, right? But at a certain point, when it comes to facilities and, being competitive with paying your coaching staff and like all this other stuff, like it matters. Like that money, that TV revenue money matters. And I just think the ACC has put themselves in such a situation where they don't really have any leverage when it comes to petitioning ESPN for any more money, right? So at a certain point, I think even though your path is easier, and it's 100% easier, like there's no debate about that, right? But at the end of the day, when you can be, you know, you can have all that extra added revenue, and I think the sport's shifting away from the 4-conference thing anyway. Like I think eventually it probably goes to like a 2-conference type deal, more of an NFL model, just more teams, right? Like I can see that happening. So I don't think really winning a national championship changes it either way. I think the writing's kind of on the wall. I don't know that Clemson can stay in the ACC at this point. I know the two parties have, called a truce and made up, right? But there's still a lot of, I feel like, passive aggressiveness, hostility there probably directed towards Clemson and FSU when it comes to what they did, because basically they forced the ACC's hand to make the buyouts affordable and basically set their own, execution date, if you will, for the conference. Because as we approach the next round of TV revenue dates for both the Big Ten and the SEC, I think that gap just widens further. And I think at that point, if you're Clemson, regardless of how much easier your path to the playoffs is, you kind of have to go get a piece of that, hopefully in one of the other 2 conferences, just to keep up with facility-wise and all the other things that go into it outside of, you're paying, the revenue share with the players. You would assume that, that margin's going to grow over time as TV revenue contracts get bigger and bigger. So, you got to have that $20+ million to shell out to your players as well. So I don't know. I think Clemson will leave the ACC at some point. I don't know when. I'm not going to sit here and predict it, but I don't think winning a national title this year or not winning a national title will sway it any way. I think they're pretty set on leaving at some point. But when that is and where they land, that's anybody's guess at this point.
Yeah. I'm done trying to predict when it'll happen, but
yeah,
I tend to agree.
I think it will happen eventually, but when and where, I have no clue, no clue at all, and I'm not going to pretend to know. Oh, here's an interesting question. Hold on. Let me back up. Was college football 26 coming out July 10th? How many times will you play the matchup of Clemson-LSU, or are you too superstitious and won't play the matchup before the game on August 30th?
Well, I mean, I'm not a huge exhibition player anyway, so I mean, I guess if I start a dynasty mode and I end up playing it, but I never start dynasties with Clemson anyway, so almost never, unless I'm doing an online one and I want to be Clemson, we're picking, but usually when I play the game, honestly, I rarely. I'll play against my friends online with Clemson, but that's about it. I don't do dynasties with Clemson really. I don't even I'm not even a huge Road to Glory guy, but when I do it, I don't typically pick Clemson because it's just I don't know. I just want to do. I've used in college football games back when NCAA was out. I use Clemson a ton. Like it's just I'm like that in basically any with most sports games. I don't really pick my favorite team all that often. I'm usually running with other.
I usually like to try to pick somebody smaller or not really good and try to build something. Try to build them into a winner. So,
but so I'm not. I don't even know if that. I didn't even know if that was a thing or not. Like you jinx your team if you play the matchup on the game before it gets played. But
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in it. Some people do, but. All right. Intelligent Savage said, "Did you guys catch the latest two right turns with Keith Brookings and Brandon Jacobs? Speaking on their sons being new to the Clemson Tigers, Brandon Jacobs didn't want to be anywhere else other than Clemson." I did catch some. I don't think I finished the episode, but I watched a good portion of it. I think I don't know what happened. I just wasn't able to finish it. But yeah, it was kind of cool to hear kind of their perspective on the recruiting process and what it's like at Clemson versus some other places, and kind of what their sons' mindsets were heading into the recruiting process and kind of why they chose Clemson. But yeah, it sounded like Braden Jacobs was just like he was ready to shut it down as soon as he came to Clemson, and didn't budge on it at all. So shout out to him for that. That's it was cool to hear that story about. He was just like, "No, I'm good. I don't want to go anywhere else." His dad was trying to go to the LSU game. He was like, just see if we can go to the game. He's like, "No, I'm good. I don't want to
go." We go on that. Yeah, I haven't checked out that episode yet. I've seen a couple clips, but that's still it's in my I know it's in my Spotify new episodes. Like it's like in my queue, so I'll probably listen to it while I work tomorrow or something. But that's usually when I listen to most of my college football podcasts is, while I'm working or doing something or driving. So I'll probably do it that way.
Yeah, I listen to most of mine on my commute to and from work. So that's why I get most of my time in. But yeah, from what I saw of it, it's a good episode. I still got to go back and finish it. I think I got through like the first half of it. But two right turns, they always got some good stuff. Isaac Smith. Our punting situation will cost us a couple games this year, either in the regular season or the playoffs. You buying that, Jordan?
Well, is this I don't know is this a BYOG or
I don't know, but we're gonna turn it into one because
all right, cool.
That's what makes it interesting to me. Yeah, so
why not?
BYOG or sell? The punting game cost Clemson at least. We'll just go with one game, at least one game this year.
I don't know. I mean, it's very rare that punting flat out costs you a football game.
Yeah,
I can't think of as rough as the punting situation was last year. I can't say there was a game that you say, man, if you had a good punter, the result would have been different. I don't think so. I mean, like, what game would you name? Like, you got whooped in the second half by Georgia, Louisville. Maybe.
I guess in order for punting to cost you a game, there'd have to be a couple reasons, right? Like maybe a punt block return for a touchdown, or you get into some defensive battle with a team and it's kind of a field possession game, and that kind of contributes to putting your defense in some, bad situations by you not being able to, punt out of your territory or something, maybe giving somebody a ball in plus territory late in the game and they go and score a touchdown. Like that's kind of the only scenarios that I can come up with, like either a block that results in a touchdown, or you kind of go 3 and out deep in your territory and you shank a punt and give it to the other team on like the 30-yard line, and they just basically, I don't know. I could see that losing you a game. Like maybe you're up by, I don't know, a couple points and they kick a field goal because you couldn't punt out of plus territory.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are kind of the only scenarios I come up with. I'm going to go no. It doesn't cost you, at least not directly.
Yeah.
To punting, because outside of those kind of situations I came up with in my head, I can't come up with another one. But
because usually there's just something else you can point to, like that was more impactful on the game. Like Georgia, you couldn't stop. I mean, in the second half, especially, you couldn't stop the run. Louisville, you couldn't stop the run. South Carolina, you couldn't stop the quarterback scramble or the quarterback run in the fourth. Like those things were infinitely more costly than your inability to flip the field at times. Sometimes your defense was in tough spots in those moments, but like you were flat out just soft in run defense for a lot of last season. So and obviously giving up 300 yards to the Citadel and 280 yards to Texas, like in the playoff, like those are more like infinitely more impactful in the game than punting. Like, so there were games that you, like, if you had better punting, maybe, I don't know, maybe your defense gets an extra stop or two, but like I can never. There's not a time really like where you look at punting, barring like special teams touchdowns, type of situation where like you punting is the main reason you lost a game, or even like a top 2 or 3 reason why you lost a game. It has its place and it has an impact on the game and the flow of the football game, and I still have concerns about it, but I don't know if it's to the point where I'm worried it'll be the reason it costs you a game. It can be a reason that it saves you or wins you a game, or keeps you from losing a game, like 2023 Notre Dame. Aiden Swanson's best punting game of his career by far. That in that second half you weren't doing anything offensively, especially, and Notre Dame had like 5 or 6 drives in that second half, and did they cross the 50? But because they were pinned into so deep into their own territory so many times in that second half. So, I guess that would be an example of punting directly changing the result of a game.
Yeah, absolutely. But with that said, I do think our punting is going to be an issue in 2025. I'm with John. I'd be happy to see 40-yard punts at this point consistently.
Apparently that's a high bar.
You know what the most frustrating thing about Clemson's punting game is the fact that it seems like every team we play, like their punter is just like out of this world. Just like, I mean, I don't know. Like their punter seems like the best punter in the world.
Yeah, they all turn into Ray Guy award winners.
Yeah, they're all, launching the ball with, 12-second hang time and it's going 60 yards. And I'm like, we can't get a return. And then, we go punt the ball and it, it goes 25 yards and
because it's shanked off the side of the foot and
shanks off the side of the foot. Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's what it felt like all of last year. It's like every team we played had the best punter ever. Yeah. And we were lucky to see the ball fly 35 yards.
Perfect balance, everything. Just so far.
We're rolling up on 2.5 hours here, so I'm going to take one more question, and then we're going to get up out of here. Let's see. What do we got?
John, can Ian Shefflin punt? Shoot, why not?
Maybe.
Who knows? He can't be worse.
He probably punted once in like middle school, so
yeah,
let's just start that rumor. Ian Shefflin, that's why Dabo brought him on. He's the new punter for Clemson.
Yeah. It's got to be it.
It's got to be it. All right. Isaac Smith says, let Sammy Brown punt. I heard he can punt. He punted in high school. All right. I think we're going to leave it there, Jordan. I don't see anything else pertinent to the conversation. We'll go ahead and leave it there, guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We still got 27 people in the live chat. You guys are awesome. You guys are the real ones. You are the people that make this show possible and make it a lot of fun for us. So thank you for getting into the comment section. Thank you for hanging out with us for 2.5 hours on a random Wednesday evening in May to talk Clemson football. Appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button if you haven't already on your way out. Consider subscribing. Consider becoming a channel member. Don't forget to check out our Voice of College Football website. Go make an account over there. That'll keep you up to date on all things college football. Follow us on Twitter, Jobo0209 and TPC_CFB, and hit up our Instagram page as well. Thank you guys so much for being here again. It's been fun. Until next time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.